All right, so we're going to start this cultural heritage honor. It's a very interesting one. It's one that we are. I don't think we're going to really get to the bottom of everything. It's going to whet your appetite in several ways, and but we'll see how we go with this. Okay, let's see. Um, Completing this honor will allow you to do several things. If you're already working on the Artisan Master Award, this honor will help you to achieve part of that. So you can add this honor to your Artisan Master collection, and you can help earn your Artisan Master Award. Similarly for the ADRA Master Award. So this cultural heritage honor qualifies for both the Artisan Master and the ADRA Master Awards, which is really good. Um, the honor comes from the South Pacific Division. They have developed it, and we're glad to have done this. So, and it's a level 2, so you would need to think and do a few things in order to complete this honor. Um, Pastor Herman also already gave you a little bit about me in terms of what I do in Area 7 as a coordinator. And I'm happy to be here with you today to do this honor. Very interesting one. So here's a little breakdown of some of the things that we're going to be doing today. We're going to find out why it's important to know about your cultural heritage. We're going to look at some ceremonies that are part of the different parts of the world that people engage in with regards to the birth of a child, becoming an adult, and also death and burial. We're also going to look at what people wear for certain occasions, special occasions, and see how you can identify or present these things in your worksheet. If you should have your worksheet already got downloaded from the BUC website. Then next we're going to look at is pre-marriages. How do you plan for marriage, or do you, or does somebody else plan for marriage on your behalf? We're gonna look at that. Pre-marriages or arranged marriages. What people call it arranged marriages. Okay. We're gonna look at the advantages or disadvantages of traditional marriages as opposed to Western style marriages and courtship. And then there is the other tricky thing about paying for your bride, paying for a bride. What's the bride price? And what are the advantages and disadvantages of a bride price? And then lastly, last requirement is to look at how is leadership conducted in where you live. How is leadership managed where you live? You have a chief. You have what's your leader called in your area that you live, or your parents' area? Okay, so those are the requirements. Not very difficult ones, but very interesting ones. So let's start. Why is it important to know about your cultural heritage? Well, in your worksheet, you've got some words, some points that you've got to identify there. There are 4 important words there. One is interesting, one is relationships, one is respect and knowledge. Okay, so why is it important to know? Well, because knowing about your cultural heritage can be very interesting. I find it very interesting in understanding and knowing about where I come from, who's around me, what do I like, what do people around me like, and so on. So my family, to understand about my family, where I come from, what do they do, what do they like doing, it's very interesting. And then it also helps you to understand the relationships around you. So your aunt, your uncle, your cousins, your grandparents, um, um, all these relationships, it helps you to understand a bit more about them. When you understand their culture, your culture, helps you to understand the relationships around you. So one is it's interesting. Secondly, it helps you to understand the relationships. And next thing, it teaches us to respect our elders. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12 says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord giveth thee. When you learn about your cultural heritage, it helps you to appreciate your parents.
Mm.
It helps you to understand a little bit more where they come from. So when they tell you certain things in certain words, you get a sense of understanding of why they say it. It helps you to understand where they've come from and their story. And it teaches you respect for them. Because when you appreciate someone, it teaches you respect for them. And then last word is about knowledge. Knowing about your culture gives you knowledge to pass it on to your children. It comes like a chain. So from your parents to you to your children. And you'll find that you will be telling your children about, oh, I ate this type of food because this is something that we always ate on a Friday evening. Or I like wearing this, or this is something that's passed on to me from my grandparents. It gives you knowledge that you can pass on to your children. So 4 key words: interesting relationships, respect, and knowledge. All right. Okay, so question 2 talks about the special ceremonies for the birth of a child. So we're going to look at 3 different ceremonies that relate to the birth of a child. Some cultures we have what's called our child dedication. So I don't know how many of you have been dedicated in the church. If you want to put that in the chat room, you can do so. So how many have been dedicated?
Mm-hmm.
What that means? What kind of responses are we getting here?
Nothing yet.
Okay.
So the question is, guys, how many of you were dedicated when you were a child, right? Mom and dad takes you to church and the pastor has a prayer. Oh, somebody said me, Sheila
Uh-huh.
Ryan. So there's
And do you
quite,
have a picture of it?
yep,
That's
there's
the
a
good thing.
few that this says me. They've been
Okay.
dedicated.
So if you were dedicated, could you get a picture of that dedication and put it in with your worksheet? If you were
Okay.
dedicated. Okay. So what happens is that the pastor says to the parents, we are asking you to commit yourself to raise you as a child according to the religious principles of the church that you attend. And okay, it's the Seventh Adventist Church. Okay, sometimes they ask other people around to do this to help your parents. Okay. The other one that happens is some people may be baptized in other cultures, other religions. People may baptize them. So you get the priest pouring water over the head of a baby, right, or sprinkling water, and they say that the water is holy. We in the Seventh Adventist Church don't follow that practice. We follow the practice as in the Bible when Jesus was dedicated. Okay, so if you've been baptized as an infant, also you can put that picture of you. If you got a picture of you being baptized as an infant, put it in your worksheet and add it to your worksheet. Okay. The third special ceremony that people do for the birth of a child is circumcision. Now, when we hear about circumcision, we hear about circumcision from way back in the Bible. Um, and Jesus and God asked the children of well, let me ask the question: who was the first person who was circumcised? Who did God ask to be circumcised first?
Ooh, now that's an interesting question. Let's see how many of you know that. How many can guess that? Perhaps. Who was the first? the first person in the Bible do you think was circumcised or circumcised? Anybody? It's here. Facebook chat is quiet. The Facebook chat is quiet.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody? You know, Abraham. Somebody.
Abraham.
Yes.
Right.
Abraham.
So God told Abraham to set him apart from other people. I want you to be circumcised. So from Abraham all the way down along all the Israelites were circumcised. The male babies were circumcised. Now I say the male babies because we do also have female circumcision. It's not something that is condoned by the World Health Organization or by most countries. Some countries still practice it. It's different. It's a different reason that those people in those countries call for it, but it's not something that is recommended. And there are lots of disadvantages of that. It'd be good if you want to do some research on that and see why it shouldn't be done. But for the males, it's not as frowned on, and it's seen as something that is, there's advantages of that as well for male circumcision. Okay, let's move to the next question. The special ceremonies for becoming an adult. All right. So we have several of these here. So when you become an adult, what age do you become an adult? And according to the culture you belong to, you become an adult at different ages. So we're going to look at a few and see what they do in terms of becoming an adult. So this first one is the quinceañera, and we have someone who comes from that culture and who will talk a little bit about that. All right. So,
some people are already showing familiarization with the quinceañera. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, quinceañera.
There's some people who already, and says 15-year-old.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So let's hear from someone who comes directly from that culture. Here we go.
I didn't click. Yeah.
Hello. The party of the quinceañera is when we celebrate the 15th birthday of a girl. And
yeah.
Could you hear it?
No. Oh, yes, we can.
And it starts with
I started over again.
Religious ceremony in a Catholic church, and then. Hello. The party of the quinceañera is when we celebrate the 15th birthday of a girl, and it starts with a religious ceremony in a Catholic church, and then everyone goes to the venue of the party where the quinceañera dances the first valse with her father. After that, the chambelanes will join in the party, in the dance, and they will dance one by one with this girl. It's a party to symbolize how a young girl leaves her childhood behind and starts to get into the adulthood. I will say that it's a moment to reflect on what values you are bringing into your adulthood as a woman, and what you would like to be, and what training you would like to do mentally, physically, and all of the aspects of your life. So it's a lovely moment of reflection, definitely a fun moment as well if you do the party.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, some people say this. The girls wear very beautiful dresses.
Yes.
The cake, and before that they say the 15 people who have been very, very close to her and who will continue to be part of her role, of a role model for this, for her, for this young girl. And also there are other parties where they have a fun moment using the heels, as many times it will be the first time that a young girl will start using the high heels. And then another thing that they could do is the dancing and the makeup as well. So it's a fun moment, and depending also of the financial possibilities of the family. Sometimes these are very humble parties, but there are others where the family really invests a lot. It almost looks like a wedding. It's a big thing, but it's essentially to mark the leaving the childhood behind and coming into the adulthood as a woman. And I will say a moment to reflect on what values you are bringing with you into the adulthood.
Okay, so that's about the quinceanera, right? It's a very interesting rite of passage. So we're talking about moving from childhood to adulthood, a rite of passage. Okay. We're going to look at another one, which is the bar mitzvah or the bat mitzvah. Bar mitzvah is for the boys, and the bat mitzvah is for the girls. So they reach the age of majority. It's quite interesting that it's younger age for the girls than for the boys, because the feeling is, or the understanding is that girls mature earlier than boys, and probably that happens. I mean, people disagree with that or agree with that. Do girls become more mature than boys at an earlier age? So we're going to have a look at the bar mitzvah and the bat mitzvah. So what I've got for you, we've got a video for you to look at about the bar mitzvah, and then I've got a friend whose daughter has gone through about 2 years ago the bat mitzvah, and she sent some pictures of her daughter and what she got as a result. They lived in the UK, but they went to Jerusalem, right in Jerusalem, for her bat mitzvah. Okay, so first of all, it's the film about the bar mitzvah. Having there. So it sounds like from the quinceañera and now the bar mitzvah, they're enjoying themselves, moving from one stage of life to the other. All right. So let's see So these are pictures here now of my friend, whose daughter went from um, the UK and went especially when she was 12 years old over to Jerusalem. Um, they put flags on her on the cars with her family members with her picture on it. They went into the place where she did her reciting of verses from the Bible, and then they sat down for a meal with family and friends, and at the end she was given a scroll, which or a certificate showing that she was now an adult according to their culture. This is the Jewish culture, the bar mitzvah and the bat mitzvah. Okay. The other one is the prom. Now, do we have proms in the UK? I guess, what are people thinking? We have proms in the UK, but really and truly, it started more so in the US and Canada, right?
Yes, we do have proms in the UK.
Yeah.
My son was part of the. Yeah.
You went to a prom. Okay, so
Yes.
it's come over to the UK now and to other parts of the world. But originally it started off in the US and in Canada, right? So you wear special clothing, and you have a great time. But let's see what someone says about the prom. She is from from Canada, and she can tell us a little bit more about the prom.
Mm-hmm.
So how is a prom in America? It's massive, massive. At least from what I remember. Um, you have these students who've been to school all of their lives for 12 years, and they reach their final year, senior high,
Yeah.
and they engage in a celebratory event, a very fancy event where you dress up in your best dresses. I mean, people go spend hundreds of dollars in what they're gonna wear. Um, the boys buy the girls corsages. They rent cars. They pick them up, and they go together, and they're just celebrating all their acknowledgments, all of their achievements, everything that they went through in this journey of learning. And it's almost as well as if they're transitioning from being a teenager to becoming an adult. And so it is reflected in this big party, where they can feel free and celebrate and say, "Look, I have reached the final line, the finish line." And yeah, so it's almost just as big as a graduation. It's massive.
So, but this is a different age now. This is not 12 or 13 years old. We're talking about young people who got to about 17 or 18.
Yeah. Well, in the UK, but at least in Scotland, they have a junior prom and a senior prom. The junior prom, and I noticed somebody did comment on it, at the end of year 6, they have a junior prom. That sense. And then at the end of year 12, they've got a senior prom.
Senior prom.
That's in the UK, yes.
So those are variations in the prom now according to the different country you go to.
Yeah.
Right. So if you've got a picture of your prom and you've been to, you can put that picture in your worksheet. Right. So add it because this is we are looking at different cultures today. But we also want you to think about yours. So if you've got something for you for yourself and you've been through, so whether it is your baby picture for dedication or baptism, we're looking at proms. If you've got pictures of that, or any coming of age pictures added to your worksheet. All right. We're going to look at a Native American one now, which is the Vision Quest. The vision quest now is for the native some Native American cultures that the young person goes away from their family and the tribe or the home their home, and they go out into the outdoors, into the wilderness, as it were, and they try to connect with a spirit out there that will give them a vision of their for what their life is to become. They don't eat for some days, for about 3 or 4 days. They live, they stay on their own, and but they have got some elders who kind of watch them and make sure they're okay, right? And then they come back and they talk to them to the elders about what their vision is.
Mhm.
At the end of that time, they're usually given a new name, which signifies what this new vision is for their life. And sometimes they go on different visions with different quests throughout their life. Again, looking to see what new they should be achieving in their life. But the first one comes at about puberty. That's when they go out and do that. So let's see what someone says about vision quest.
Vision Quest, Lakota Sioux Rite of Passage. The Lakota were originally a woodland society in Minnesota. When their enemies, the Assiniboine, acquired guns, the Lakota escaped to the High Plains region. By the 1700s, the Lakota had become a Plains society. The Lakota's lives were deeply influenced by their religion. They believed that Wakan Tanka, the great mystery, was an omnipresent, omnipotent force composed of a number of deities and animals. They also believed that man was a part of this force, and they sought to connect with it. Ceremonies were an important way to connect with Wakan Tanka and played a vital role in the Lakota society. The Vision Quest was one such ceremony. The Vision Quest was vital to both the individual Lakota and Lakota society because it provided spiritual power, social standing, bravery, and life purpose. For generations, the Vision Quest has been an extremely important part of Lakota life and ritual. Until recent times, all young men sought this experience, sometimes as young as 10 or 12, and never later than their early teens. The Vision Quest is a turning point in life taken before puberty to find oneself and the intended spiritual life direction. When an older child is ready, he or she will go on a personal spiritual quest alone in the universe, in conjunction with a period of fasting. This usually lasts for a number of days while the child is attuned to the spirit world. The Vision Quest may include long walking, fasting, sleep deprivation, or being closed in a small room or sweat lodge. The Vision Quest is the learning and initiation process of the apprentice under the guidance of an elder. The quest is said to establish contact with a spirit or force, which are often anthropomorphized as an animal, to obtain advice and protection. Usually a guardian animal will come in a vision or dream, and the child's life direction will appear. The child returns to the tribe, and once the child has grown, will pursue that direction in life. After a vision quest, the child may become an apprentice of an adult in the tribe of the shown direction. For example, a medicine man, boat maker, and so on. Besides the young, a person might choose to cry for a vision in order to better understand another vision they already had, or to prepare for the Sundance, or ask a favor from Wakan Tanka, or as a thank you to Wakan Tanka for gifts received, or simply to realize a closeness with the Great Spirit. Now, the idea of the quest is for the seeker to pray hard from the heart and pay attention to the world around him. If he does, messages from Wakan Tanka will come to him. Sometimes a message or instructions come through nature in the form of an animal or bird. Vision quests are not generally discussed openly, but sometimes the details come out long after, only to amaze and astound the listener of the tale. The following is a lyrical recount of an infamous
Okay, I'm going to
Lakota
stop this
vision
here,
quest.
but you got an understanding of what a vision quest is about. Okay, so we'll move to the other one, which is debutante. So it comes from the original French, but it refers really to the moving of a young woman who usually belongs to a high society or high or aristocratic upper class family, and they've reached the age of maturity, which is usually 18, 19, 20, and is now presented to other suitors, male suitors, as if they were getting ready for marriage, right? So they're all eligible for marriage, and this ceremony was one where they would meet eligible bachelors in a very formal setting, with lots of food to eat and special music playing. And so they can look at selecting someone for marriage within that circle. So this is where the young lady would be able to meet a young man from the same class. And it's from the upper class or the aristocratic classes. Okay, so that's a debutante. Another ceremony for becoming an adult is the Rus. Now, the Rus comes from the Scandinavian countries. In Norway, it's for those who are graduating from upper secondary school and are going on to university. In Sweden, it's very similar. So it's about the students moving from one stage to another, from high school to universities, university level. In Denmark, it's very similar. They celebrate it with wearing different colored caps, riding in trucks, and then so just having a good time as they move on from secondary school into university life. And that's the Rus. That's from Scandinavian countries. The other one is scarification. Now, you've probably seen it in different places. People's faces are marked or their bodies are marked in different ways. The Maori of New Zealand use a particular type of ink to rub tattoos into their body, and these stay on for pretty much for life. Each moko or the tattoo or the marking was unique for each person, and it was like their signature. It was like it's almost like when people do a bit of spray painting around. What's that called again? When they spray paint buildings and they spray paint bridges. Graffiti. So imagine this is like your signature graffiti on your face or your other parts of your body. Okay.
Well, it's definitely the right name for it. It's scarification. Looks like it's scarification.
It says scarification. It says
Yes,
scarification.
it will be very scary.
In some cultures, it's not just the marking with a special ink, but it's also the marking with bruises on the body. Okay, so if you look at this young man here, he's got markings, actual physical markings on his body. And some cultures, like this one, where this young man comes from, it can be as a rite of passage into adolescence. And it can be on your face, it could be on all parts of the body, different parts of the body. So it creates a scar, which can be erased on the skin. Okay, so I've got someone who he didn't show me his scar, but he's telling about when he got his scar. Okay.
Hello, my name is Amos Onchiri and I'm from Kenya. Today I'm going to talk to you about scarification. And I come from an area in Kenya called Kisii, and scarification was used for three main purposes. Number one, it was used for healing, and it was used for protection, and it was also used for beautification. Now, the one that I received was to do with healing. There were special people who were trained to do this, and what they did is they cut through the skin and put a special medication, which was ashes from particular plants, which brought healing. And when this was done, it was very painful. Thankfully, it worked. Thank you very much. Bye.
I asked him how old he was when he had his scarification. He said he was between 8 and 10 years old. He has 3 marks on his belly. As I say, he didn't show them to me, but so he was quite young when he had that, and he said it was there for different purposes. So all these different methods of becoming an adult, ceremonies for showing that you're becoming an adult in one way or the other. You can manage pain. You go there for healing, as he said, and that was what he had his scarification for. Okay. So moving on, we've got 2 more to look at. One is called the Jempuku. It's also called the Kakan. It's a historic Japanese coming of age ceremony. So what they do, mostly is for the boys between ages of 12 and 16. They go to the shrine of the patron god, and they get presented with adult clothes. So it shows that, okay, you're moving from being a child to being an adult. The hairstyle was changed as well. And they got new names, new adult names. So imagine one day you've got, you between the ages of 12 and 16, you go to the shrine, you come back with new clothes, new hairstyle, and a new name, showing that you've changed from being a child to an adult. That happens in Japan. So in your worksheet, you asked you to sort of match the ceremony with the name. All right. So one more is the Poi Sang Long, and it's called the Festival of the Crystal Suns. And this rite of passage is for young people who live in Burma or Myanmar, or which is now also in North Thailand. It's undergone by boys between the ages of 7 and 14, and it consists of them taking vows, participating in a monastery life for a period of time that can range from a week to several months. So several boys get ordained as novice monks at the same time. They then learn how to become a monk. When they after several years they become a monk. But it's important to understand that this isn't only for a short period of time, a day or so, as in the other ceremonies, which can take place over a day. I think the Vision Quest over 3 or 4 days, but all the others seem to have taken place over a day. You go in one day, you come out the other day as an adult. This one is over a period of time. Yeah, becoming an adult over this period of time. Now, question for you. At what age do you become an adult in your culture now? So if you live in the UK, at what age do you become an adult?
Okay, guys, if you can hear that, what age do you? So, okay, some says 18.
18. Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what country. Tell us which country also, right? If you put your age, tell us which country that is. Okay, so Keela Ryan, 18. Okay, Zambia. So yes, so 18 in Zambia.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? 18 in Zimbabwe.
18. Oh, that sounds like an age that most people are becoming adults. 18.
Yes, 18 in Montserrat as well.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. But think about the next thing. And in different countries, you can be charged with certain crimes as an adult, even though you were a child, and
Yes.
that could confuse things a bit. Because in England, you can be charged for a crime as a 10-year-old, something a crime as even as murder as a 10-year-old, right? Murder is sometimes used to be seen as something an adult does, but you can be charged with that from that age. Do you become an adult because of that? Not really. So it can be quite confusing. You have certain rights and privileges at different ages. So it can be confusing if it's not as straightforward as 18. So have a look at the laws in your country and where you live to see exactly what age do you actually take on responsibility as an adult, right? But we are talking about ceremonies for becoming adults today. Okay. The next stage about ceremonies is about death and burial. Now, so we talk about birth, we talk about becoming an adult, and now it's about death and burial. We've got religious ceremonies, funerals, they're called. And there's some things happen in certain funerals. Sometimes we have a wake. You gather together the family and friends before the funeral, and it sometimes takes place in the same house as the person who's died. And usually the body of the person could be present. In some cultures, the body of the person has to be present. Other places it has to be at a funeral home. So even though the body isn't there in the home, you may have the wake in the home with the family members with the body not there, right? And then after the wake, you have the church service. You get the coffin carried to the front of the church or the crematorium, and then a minister of religion or someone else. In some places, like in the UK now, we have what's called a celebrant, who then conducts the ceremony for the person who's passed away. And then we have burial. So the sequence, you've got a wake, you've got a church service, then you've got a burial. It could be in the ground or in a tomb, as Jesus was buried in the tomb, for instance, or it could be at sea, if the person died at sea, buried at sea. So the burial, where the person is taken under earth, under stone, under water. Okay? If you don't, some people don't want a burial, they may have a cremation. And several other cultures also take up that practice of cremation, where the body is then burned to ashes, and it's usually done after the church service, right? So most towns in the UK, most local authorities have got a crematorium where that is undertaken for people who have passed away. Okay. The other thing that can happen, a ceremony, is embalming. Now, can anyone tell me about where did they hear about embalming first? So who used to do embalming of bodies long time ago?
All right, guys, do you have any idea? When was embalming first? Maybe the picture should give you a clue there. The picture on it should give you a clue. Yes, somebody said Egypt. The Egyptians, yes?
Yep.
Egyptians were the ones who started embalming.
That's right. So the evidence we have is that we could still find, and people are still finding the bodies of the pharaohs, usually done with the really rich and high society members of those countries or those cultures, because it may cost a bit. They wanted to preserve their bodies for the afterworld. And so they would embalm the body by making this small incision in the abdomen, and then they put they take all the gas and the fluid from the abdomen. They put certain chemicals inside as well, um, certain materials that then keep the body for a long time after it is sewed up. And that is why we could find certain bodies of pharaohs that were embalmed in the tombs over hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years as well, right? So embalming is one form of death and burial for certain cultures. Another one is called the celebration of life. So people want, they say they want to have a good send-off for their family, right? They don't want to be, they don't want a sad occasion. And most times funerals are seen as sad, cry occasions. But celebration of life ceremonies was there to talk about what was good about the person's life. And then they usually have a party afterwards. They sing some happy songs. In fact, when people are coming in to the ceremony, they may have some pop song playing that sort of reflect what the person was. And that was the type of that was the celebration of life. Very similar to that, we have joyful celebrations like the jazz funerals. So in New Orleans, in the US, there are several, traditionally, they have the jazz funerals. They have the brass band playing, and then you've got, once the service is over, the brass bands really play some upbeat and some really joyful tunes, and they jump through the streets, and they have like a little parade in the streets, and people join in, the crowds join in, and it's like a really good celebration. In Ghana, there is another type of celebration that takes place, and it sort of comes along with where you can hire people to celebrate for you. And if you look back to the Bible,
that's interesting.
yeah, and Jesus went into the little girl who was 12 years old, you remember, and when she was dead, there were people who were crying outside the home. And these people were paid to cry. These were paid to mourn. And so now we have, and Jesus wanted to go away. But now we have people who are paid to celebrate in a joyful way the death of someone. So I'm gonna play two bits of music for you. One's regarding the jazz funeral. Another one is the a Ghanaian funeral. Tell me which one you think you like best. Okay, so let's go. Play the jazz one first.
I know in some cultures that would not be acceptable.
Okay. Which one do you prefer?
I know in some cultures they would not, that wouldn't go, but some have even put in here Ghana. The Ghanaians, some people like prefer.
Yeah,
That would be really interesting. So do they actually, is that actually the person's coffin, or is it
yeah,
or is
yeah.
it just a copy of a coffin that they...
No, it's actually the coffin because there was another clip I could have shown you where the coffin fell down and the person
Okay.
body came out.
Wow.
Yeah. That was quite funny actually, and the guys who were dancing ran away, and then they had to come back and sort it out.
Oh wow.
So maybe you're not doing your job well.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some says none of those.
What
And then
was
Facebook says they wouldn't want any of those ones
that?
on their funeral. I probably would be a bit skeptical of both too.
Uh-huh. So we have different ways of celebrating death. So I say celebrating. Okay, the last one we're gonna, no, not the last one, but one of the other things we're gonna look at is another one called, these are state funerals. Now, these are usually held for people who are belonging to the government, or those who are of high standing, like kings and queens and heads of state, right? And I mean, they're there to involve the public in a great way. So the public can see the whole thing taking place, even though they can't be there personally. It goes international, these state funerals, right? And you can't miss them. There's lots of the military is involved as well too. Lots of pomp and nice fancy dress, or nice military dress really. Flags are draped over the coffin as well for that purpose. Yeah, so that's the state funerals. And finally, we're going to look at memorial services. Now, we talked about celebrations of life service. Again, this is almost similar, except that memorial service is that the body of the person who passed away isn't present, right? So it's where the time has gone past, or even before the burial. Sometimes if they're waiting for a long time before the burial, they may have a memorial service, but usually taking place a long time afterwards. Or, as in the case of different memorial service for lots of people, like November the 11th, Remembrance Day. That's a memorial service for those who passed away in the wars. And it's a big event every year. In the UK, in the US, it's called Veterans Day, same day, November 11th. Other countries have similar services for those who have died in the wars, right? It's always good to remember people, and memorial services provide this opportunity for whether it is a small family or large family or a church or a community or a nation to remember people. Memorial services. Okay. So these are the celebrations, special ceremonies for these events of life. I want us to have a look at how we dress for these occasions now, right? If you're getting dressed for according to the requirements, you need to think about dressing for everyday life, casual situations. What would you dress? How would you dress for that? If you're lounging around in the house, if you're going for a jog or visiting friends at the park, how would you dress for that? Or if you are going to a formal event, how would you dress for that? You attending school? Is that formal? Well, for some schools it is. You have to wear a uniform.
Mm.
If you're going to church, how do you dress? Do you dress casually or do you dress up? You're going to work, you have to wear a uniform. How do you dress for that? You just wear a dressing gown to work? Probably not. You know, if you're going to a wedding, most people look at the weddings as the high point of dressing. Buy a dress for a wedding, or buy a suit for a wedding. You know, or if you're going on a date, how would you dress for that?
Oh, somebody right here. I hope they're not responding to a date and they say Pathfinder uniform.
Ah.
Maybe it's for something else they responded to. But then they corrected, Chika, they corrected, it says a sparkling suit when you go for a date, he says.
All right, okay. That's important, that's an interesting one about the Pathfinder uniform. Where would you wear your Pathfinder uniform to?
Although I've seen some people who got married in their Pathfinder uniform, Vernon. I've seen a few pictures. People wear their Pathfinder uniform.
That's a good one as well to some people. Yeah. I guess both people will need to agree to that. You know?
Yes.
Why? Dressing your Pathfinder uniform to get married.
Yes. Says they wear Pathfinder uniform for baptism. They want to be baptized, they'll wear the Pathfinder uniform.
Yes, yeah. So Pathfinder uniform comes in very handy for dressing for a formal occasion.
Yeah.
Sometime earlier this year, I think it was, last year, it was late last year, the mayor of our city where I live, he had a special event and asked people to attend, certain people to attend, and I went dressed in my Master Guide uniform, Pathfinder uniform, and ended with several people dressed up for that.
Good. Okay,
so what I need you to do is to present how you would dress for those different occasions, right, that we talked about, like the casual situations and the formal situations. You need to get pictures of yourself dressed for those occasions in your worksheets, or you can draw. If you can draw it, good. If you got a picture of it, all the better, right? Casual situations and also formal situations, right? So some of these people are dressed for certain situations here. Some formal, one casual, but most of them are for formal situations. So you need to present yourself, yeah? You're saying something?
No.
Okay. You've got someone in a tuxedo, dressing for at the racetracks. We got a lady dressed in a sari. Others are dressed in formal suits. Look at someone dressed in a wedding garment. Jesus talked about being dressed in the right garment, right garment for the right situation. So you need to draw how you would, or put in pictures, or write down how you would dress for casual situations and for formal situations. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at is about marriage, because we talked about birth and coming of age and death, but we missed out that middle one in between, marriage. And we have two different types of marriage. We've got the traditional marriage, arranged by somebody else other than you. Okay, so somebody else is arranging this marriage. You might be involved in it in some way, but it could be that somebody else is involved. So we're going to look at 6 different countries that still practice arranged marriages, right? 6 different countries that still practice arranged marriages. First one is India. They still have it. Some things are still happening there that to a large extent is how they arrange it, where their parents may arrange it for them, and they have no choice in it. Okay, those are the people from India, and then we have people from. So I'm giving you these little facts about arranged marriages in these countries. You need to, in India, they try to arrange it according to the religion, because there are different religions in India. You try to arrange it according to their career paths, and some of them according to their astrological compatibility. So if you're from the Leo sign or from the Scorpio sign, imagine arranging it according to those criteria. Yeah, that's in India. Okay, next one to look at is South Korea. So here's an interesting fact about those arranged marriages in South Korea. Families hire marriage brokers to help arrange marriages. So it's a big business there. So they hire people to arrange a marriage for you. You find out about your family status, find out about your political status, your standing, find out about the attributes of your potential spouse, and arrange it for you. Yeah, might be a good one. Let's see. That's in South Korea. In Japan, imagine 5 or 6% of Japanese weddings are done by arranged marriages.
Oh, wow.
5 or 6%. That's a large number. Yeah. 5 or 6%. In Pakistan, the law has changed on this one since 2003. Now, women can be married without the consent of their guardians. Now, before that, a woman couldn't be married without her guardians, her parents usually, or an uncle, an aunt, or a grandparent, agreeing for that to be done. Now they could. So there's more power for more authority for women being part of their arranged marriages. It still happens, but now it's legal for them to be married without the consent of their guardians. So they could have it done without, where their guardians may say, no, I don't want it to be done. They can have it done now. Then look at Bangladesh. Now, Bangladesh is one where how they see it is not, you don't marry the other person, really. No. You marry your family. So 2 families get married, really. And I was speaking with someone from Bangladesh recently, how they got married. So the husband now, his cousin knew of another, knew someone, a woman who was looking to get married, and he spoke. So his cousin spoke to their cousin, and then his family went to meet her family in Bangladesh, and then only after it was arranged by the families that it was okay, because their families had similar goals in mind and similar um, feelings for for each other. They then said, okay, all children could get married, and they were in their 20s when they got married. So the families were united first, and then the individuals. Yeah. Okay, then we look at China. China is our last one we're going to look at here. Um, so this one is done more so. There seems to be more pressure from the government because for those who weren't that very rich, they got their land when they worked for those who were wealthy. So in order for you to get more rich, or you feel that you could earn more, you or we have economic security, have a good job, it was better for you to be married. Um, and so it was arranged. These marriages were arranged so that it made sure that you were more economically secure. This is more so for the rich, but it happened a lot more for those normal people as well. Okay. Right. So these are arranged marriages that are taking place. These countries, it's okay for them to have it in these countries. Are there good reasons to have arranged marriages? Some people say that you if you don't arrange your own marriage, or so if you don't have an arranged marriage, you could be blinded by love. You could have you could be so in love with the other person that you can't make a right choice. So it's good for somebody who isn't involved in the love to arrange your marriage. Okay, so that's one reason why people say that have arranged marriages. They say also that it's possible that there is less chance of incompatibility if your marriage is arranged, because you get to meet someone who is more like you, who is matched more like you. They may not like each other at first, but they can be matched with each other first, right? And they say they're more experienced with the parents who do the arranged marriages, or people who are hired to do these things, so they can find you a mate or a partner because they've got the experience to do it for you. And they also say that the pressure to stay married once you have an arranged marriage is greater, so there's less divorce. They said these are the reasons why you should have arranged marriages. How about this bride price? Now, bride price is, or bride wealth, is where money is given to the parents of the woman to marry their daughter. It's different from the dowry, which money is given to the groom to help them establish their home, right? So in some cultures, money is given to the groom so that they can develop their home once they get married, right? Because the groom then takes the bride as property. So the money is given to the groom to develop their home. But bride price is the amount of money that's given to the parents of the bride to get permission for them to marry the bride. Okay. Do we have some examples of this? And I I want us to have a look at Exodus chapter 22 and verses 15 and 16. Has something there about bride price. Exodus chapter 22 and verses 15 and 16. Anybody who can find that first, tell me what it says about bride price. Exodus 22, 15 and 16. And while they're looking for that, someone else can look for Deuteronomy 22, verses 28 and 29. And then tell me what that is in the chat. Exodus 22.
I wonder, Vernon, just for time's sake, we have about 5 minutes left before we have to finish. So maybe you can just share with us what the text says.
All right. So Exodus chapter 22 tells us about if a man seduces a virgin and is not pledged to marry with her, and he sleeps with her, he must pay the bride price to the parents. So if you sleep with someone out of marriage, you must pay the bride price to the parents so you can marry her. That's what Exodus says, right? And then the other text in Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verses 28 and 29 says that very similarly, if the man meets a virgin who is not yet to be married, and he rapes her, he has to pay 50 shekels of silver to the parents for the bride price so he can marry her. So there's a cost. Those are costs for those who would abuse their privilege or abuse their authority over a woman in those days. Yeah. Okay. So advantages and disadvantages of the bride price. It discourages the parents of a young woman from allowing their daughter to marry someone who can't really financially support her. But then also the man must demonstrate that he has the capacity to raise the wealth before he's about to get married, right? So make sure he has enough money. Disadvantage is that does it pay? How should I put it? Does a woman have a price on her? Should a woman have a price on her?
No.
Okay. So people also say that if you put a price on a woman, she is his property, and that's a disadvantage of having to pay a bride price. Okay.
It's also a lot of parents abuse that to get money off of a person, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So this system can be abused.
Can be abused.
All right. So last question we have on this honor is about the leadership structure in the village area. Right. So some places have got in the villages or towns or cities, you've got a system of government. Right. In the olden days, depends on how small the area was, you had a chief. England, believe it or not, had chiefs in certain areas. There was several years ago that's been phased out, and now we have mayor and lord mayors who are responsible for leadership decisions in your area. Okay, so we're talking about different cultures having leadership structures, right? You need to indicate on your worksheet what's the leadership structure in your area, right? And can you name the mayor or the lord mayor or the person who is the chief or the person who is the top person in your area? That's the requirement that you need to write on that one there, okay? So we have, as I said, different mayors and so on in different towns and so on in the UK. But in your area, whether it's a local authority or your country, who is the person that in your local area has control or authority to make decisions? Ceremonially, sometimes it's different to one who makes decisions for the government. But if they are separated, they're two different people, write their names down. And that will complete that part of the honor. Okay? So that brings us to the end. We've talked a lot about coming of age, birth, coming of age. We talked about marriages, we talked about death and burials. So we've covered the life cycle of a human culturally, and how ceremonies are so important for these purposes.
Mm.
Okay.